Hey folks, today's episode is brought to you by Comedy Central Tuesdays. Starting Tuesday, March 27th, Daniel Tosh and Jim Jeffries are back for a full hour of blunt but true takes on pop culture and current events. At 10, 9 Central, Tosh.0 returns for its 10th season of tearing down the internet one video at a time. Then at 10:30, 9:30 Central, the Jim Jeffries Show gives you the news of the day with Jim's dry Australian wit and fearless commentary. The world's gone insane, but at least these two can fiddle while it burns. Starting Tuesday, March 27th at 10, 9 Central on Comedy Central. Also, we're sponsored by Krypton, the new series from Sci-Fi. Krypton is set 200 years before the destruction of Superman's home planet and tells the untold story of Superman's grandfather, Seg-El, as he fights to save his family's legacy from unimaginable forces. Filled with some very recognizable characters from the DC Comics universe and executive produced by David S. Goyer, Krypton premieres this Wednesday, March 21st at 10, 9 Central on Sci-Fi. Yeah, sci-fi, sci-fi, sci-fi. Hey, can you dig it?
Lock the gate!
All right, let's do this. How are you, what the fuckers, what the fuck buddies, what the fucksters, what's happening? I'm Marc Maron. This is my podcast, WTF. Welcome to it. How's it going? How's your Monday morning going? Are you okay? What's happening? I'm recording this Sunday. I don't know what's happened this morning. All right, have we turned into a bona fide authoritarian country? What's happening? I don't know what the big mystery is with some people. It's an agenda. That's what they want. Authoritarianism. So what do? I don't know. Hope the voting works. I guess if he gets rid of Mueller, we're going to have to at least get out in the streets and do what we can, right? Or are we just going to wear the hat? All right, what? I have to wear this hat now when? Just outside or? Oh, at work too? Oh, okay. And don't ask any questions about anything? Oh, yeah, you're right. I know what you're talking about. Yeah, it's right. So just honor the fear. That's what you're saying? Okay, but I can still, it doesn't change my internet, right, or anything? Car's the same? Credit card's all still good? Everything still works the same way? All right, okay. So this hat, is there a choice of colors? Sorry. No, okay. This one's fine. Red's fine. It's fine. I never was much for the slogan. You're right. Again, see, I'm asking questions. Okay. What happened to those people down the street? Did they just, oh, sorry. No, I'm good. No, I'm going to go work in my yard. So, look, people die every day. And you know some of them, and it's one of those things in life that which I guess we're built to handle, and there's certainly no avoiding it. But some people, depending on the life we live, go sooner for reasons that may have something to do with how they lived. But in the racket I'm in, some people go hard for many years, and they may give it up, but they go hard. And Mike McDonald, Canadian Mike McDonald, the Canadian comic, was certainly one of those people, and he passed away over the weekend. And I had talked to him recently, and he was doing all right. I believe he had a new liver, and he's certainly gone through it, and we talked a lot about that. It's still in the feed. You can go to WTFpod.com/podcast and find it. It's still up live. We recorded it, or we posted it August 10th. And I always liked Mike, and over the years I would see him occasionally. I can't say that we were close, but not unlike many people in my business. We see each other here and there on the road, run into him at clubs. But I always liked him. He was always a very, back in the day, a very disgruntled, aggravated, simmering, explosive, but lovable guy. And he battled a lot of things, and his health was not great. But when I talked to him, it was certainly better, and he seemed to have some peace in his life. And now he's passed away, and I just wanted to draw attention to that, and let people know if you didn't know, and also let you know that the episode, if you want to get to know Mike or you want to hear what I imagine was one of the last full conversations with him, it's there. It's there in the feed if you go to WTF pod/podcast. And for some reason, when I was driving over here, this song came on in my shuffle in the car, and I don't know that I'd ever paid attention to the lyrics, and I was thinking about what I was going to say, about Mike and about death and about, choosing a way of life or having a way of life choose you that may not be the best idea, but sometimes because of troubles of the mind, troubles of the heart, or just full-on fury of misguided passion, and you get fucked up. And I was just listening, and this song came up, and I'm going to read it because it is by one of the great bards, one of the great American poets. And I'd read it over and after listening to it, and I thought it was appropriate. I thought it was appropriate for many of us. So this is Like a Soldier by Johnny Cash. With the twilight colors falling and the evening laying shadows, hidden memories come stealing from my mind, and I feel my own heart beating out the simple joy of living, and I wonder how I ever was that kind. But the wild road I was rambling was always out there calling, and you said 100 times I should have died. Then you reached down and touched me and lifted me up with you, so I believe it was a road that I was meant to ride. I'm like a soldier getting over the war. I'm like a young man getting over his crazy days. Like a bandit getting over his lawless ways. I don't have to do that anymore. I'm like a soldier getting over the war. There are nights I don't remember, and pain, it's been forgotten, and a lot of things I choose not to recall. There are faces that come to me in my darkest secret memories, faces that I wish would not come back at all. But in my dreams parade of lovers from the other times and places, there's not one that matters now, no matter who. I'm just thankful for the journey and that I've survived the battles, and that my spoils of victory is you. I'm like a soldier getting over the war. I'm like a young man getting over his crazy days. Like a bandit getting over his lawless ways. Every day gets better than the day before. I'm like a soldier getting over the war. Rest in peace, Mike McDonald. Today on the show, we've got a bit of a doubleheader. I got a nice long shorty with Bill Hader. And then after that, Nell Scovell is here. She is a comedy writer who has a new memoir out. She's written for a lot of shows, It's called Just the Funny Parts, and we'll talk to her in a little bit. But first, these days you can get practically everything on demand, like this podcast. You listen whenever you want, when it's convenient for you. So why are you still taking trips to the post office when you can get postage on demand? Thanks to Stamps.com. With Stamps.com, you can access all the amazing services of the post office right from your desk, 24/7, when it's convenient for you. Buy and print official U.S. postage for any letter, any package, using your own computer and printer. Then the mail carrier picks it up. Just click, print, mail, and you're done. It couldn't be easier. I use Stamps.com because with Stamps.com and the U.S. Postal Service working together, I'll never be without the right tools to mail whatever I need to mail. And I don't even have to lease an expensive postage meter. Stamps.com helps you decide the best class of mail based on your needs, and there are no long commitments ever. And right now, you too can enjoy the Stamps.com service with a special offer that includes a 4-week trial plus postage and a digital scale. Just go to Stamps.com, click on the microphone at the top of the homepage and type in WTF. That's Stamps.com. Enter WTF for a 4-week trial plus postage and a digital scale. So before I bring in Bill Hader here, I wanted to tell you that I'm going to be jamming with Jimmy Vivino, who's the band leader on Conan O'Brien, the guitar player. I sat in with him the other week. He's invited me to do a few more tunes with him, and I'm going to tell you about it. This is sort of a long tease, but if you're paying attention and you're listening, I'm going to be jamming a few songs with Jimmy Vivino and the West Coast Blues Soul Rockers Saturday, March 24th at Big Mama's Rib Shack in Pasadena, California at 8 p.m. So if you're in the neighborhood, you want to see Jimmy, who's an amazing guitar player. He puts together a great combo, and a lot of big guys come down and play guitar with him. It's really something to see if you're into that stuff, if you're into that music. And I'm very honored and flattered to be asked to do it. And I did okay last time, so I guess I'm telling people I'm going to do it this time. So anyways, that's happening. Bill Hader, who I always like to talk to, has a new HBO series, Barry. It's premiering Sunday, March 25th, and he stopped by to chat. This is me and Bill. Are there any guys that you listen to, like on records, that like comedy, that you ever go back and listen to?
Dana Gould's album Funhouse. I
yeah?
listen to that sometimes.
Yeah.
I remember when I was a PA and I was a runner for this HBO show called If These Walls Could Talk Part 2.
Wow.
And I had to drive Film Elements around all day. And I had that tape and I just wore it out. I just listened to it over.
Dana Gould?
Yeah, and when I did Vincent Price on SNL, I didn't know how to do Vincent Price. So I told Dana, like, I'm doing your Vincent Price because I don't know how to do it, because he had that whole bit about Vincent Price picking up women.
Right.
I couldn't help noticing you sitting over here. Why won't you look at me when I speak to you? Yeah, that whole stuff. And he made me, and I thought that was great. But yeah, I kind of grab like little things here and there, but I don't.
In the shuffle? In my shuffle?
Yeah, in the shuffle, like a Richard Pryor thing.
Oh, that comes up on my shuffle. I had one of those today. Schimmel. I've been listening to Robert Schimmel.
Oh yeah, I haven't
lately.
listened to much Robert Schimmel.
Yeah, he's very funny.
Yeah.
I mean, again, I don't know if it ages well or not, but it's still funny.
Yeah, it kind of has like good music. It takes you back to a specific time.
Yeah.
Like some Bill Hicks stuff is like that for me, where it's like, if I have friends in the car, they're like, what the fuck are we listening to?
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't know, man. When I was a sophomore in high school, this really made me laugh because I was really angry.
Yeah.
Oh,
they can't lock in? Yeah,
I think they equate him to people who copied him.
Oh, yeah?
Sometimes. And I go, no, he had like this humility that those people don't have. Like,
right.
He would always kind of call, say, I play birthday parties and
right.
stuff like, kind of saying like, I know I'm a bit
over the top and
I'm a little angry and I'm like, there was an awareness there that I appreciate.
Awareness that he could be interpreted as being preachy.
And like, I know I get to the fart jokes. I know you guys,
we're going to land on Dick Joke Island.
Yeah.
Wasn't that That's what we were working towards.
We were working towards Dick
Joke Island.
That was
parachuting in. I can't remember.
Parachuting into Dick Joke Island.
I can't remember the imagery, but it was his explanation for how the show would go.
He's like, don't worry, we're building to Dick Joke Island. Yeah, that thing where that woman goes, you suck. You've seen that, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Where he goes, you suck, and he just fucking unleashes just holy hell on this woman.
Oh, you mean in a real thing in the audience? A real
thing in the audience.
Yeah, where he's
he goes, go to Madonna's concert, go someplace good. And then afterwards he just goes, God, I really dug myself into a hole here. And the rest of the thing is just him going, oh man, what did I... And people are still now, the audience is shouting tons of shit out at him, just verbatim, and he's just going like, what did I do? And that's why I go, that's the difference between him and some of the people who maybe copied his thing.
Yeah. There was a certain type of comic at that time who would get stuck in a Hicksy thing.
Yeah.
Like I think I was guilty of it for a few minutes, where you just kind of lock into that.
Yeah.
And then you can't carry it. Yeah. But there's nobody really pushing the envelope like that. I mean, I think Stanhope does, but there's not that many people that can live in that world.
Yeah. I heard David Cross sometimes.
Sometimes.
They would say that was Fred's bit, the Nicholas Fane thing he used to do on Update was a bit of that David Cross. That this happened today. I mean, can you? I mean, I can't do it the way he did. He would do Nicholas Fane with no cue cards or anything. And I remember when I go, "Are you doing David Cross?" And he just kind of gave, he goes, "There's a bunch of people."
I know he said he lumped me in there once, the character.
Yeah,
I was flattered.
Angry guy.
Yeah, angry comic guy.
Angry comic guy.
Yeah, I'm not as much anymore. It comes back sometimes. It's been coming back lately.
You think that's an important thing, like the anger part in comedy? Now we get into the...
I think that a lot of guys I know are cranky.
Yeah.
Some are angry, but like the nature, the angry comic, I don't know, like, outwardly angry?
Yeah. No, just like for instance, I remember talking to Apatow about, because I work at South Park sometimes.
Yeah.
And he goes, those guys are still good because they're still so angry.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And I was like, I wonder. Yeah. And then I go in there, I'm like, are you guys angry? You guys seem pretty okay. And then we'll talk about something like, oh, no, yeah, I guess we're all still angry. I don't know.
Well, I think that's it. I think there's a clarity to it that keeps you focused.
Yeah.
I mean, if things still, like, whether it affects your life or not, if you're driven to be angry about injustice, it's probably a good thing. No. You know, whether it's really about injustice or not, if you want to place your anger in that area, then I think that's helpful.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're not an angry guy though, really?
I guess not. No, I get, I mean, I'm like one of those people, I would get angry about a thing and then very quickly people go, oh, you really don't know what you're talking about. And then I go, oh, okay, I should calm down, and I'm just repeating shit that my really smart friends just said, and they're calling me on it, and I'm like, well, I don't know, because I didn't ask that question to my friend.
That's your defense?
So,
I'll get back to you.
Let me ask him so I know what my opinion is.
My friend,
I was that way.
My friend Nate said that, he said that if there were two guys that were really convincing about the flat earth thing, he'd go with it.
I know. I would be very, like, if someone's really, because my I don't know, I grew, like, my dad was very much like a kind of a contrarian type person. And so anybody like that, I always just believe, you know?
Right.
I remember going to see the movie The Abyss.
Yeah.
And there was a part.
The water movie?
Yeah, the water movie. And there was a part where Ed Harris is having problems in his marriage, and this metal door is about to shut. And if it shuts, he's going to drown.
Yeah.
And so he sticks his hand in the thing, and it catches his hand. You go, oh, God, his hand got caught. But no, his wedding ring stopped the door. So the water again, it saved his life. Yeah. And I'm 9 years old watching this, and my dad's in the theater, and out loud my dad goes, oh, get it? And for some reason, that just switched the circuits in my brain of, that's lame, don't ever do that. Where everybody else was very emotionally moved by it, I was just, get it. It was a weird moment where you go, oh, okay, that's stupid, don't do that. Like, he was like, oh, get it? It's a little, that's just like overkill. On the nose, didactic storytelling.
The abyss, that's where the room happens underwater, and there's some sort of living...
like aliens in the water.
And there's water arms and things.
Yeah, there's a water face. It's the
water face.
James Cameron movie. Actually, better than the movie is the making of The Abyss, because Ed Harris almost drowned. And
he did.
Yeah, there's a great making of, like a 2-hour long making of The Abyss.
Of The Abyss.
It's kind of better than the movie. Yeah, just like how hell it was making.
Did you see that Jim Carrey doc?
No, I haven't.
You didn't watch it?
No, I haven't.
No.
I don't know why I haven't watched it. I think anything having to do with show business or anything having to do with people I kind of know or comedy, I tend to like go, I'll watch that a little later. I'm going to watch the part 9 of The World at War, because all these people are dead. I don't know any of these people. Do you know what I mean? A thing comes on, and now it's like I watch a thing, and I'm like, oh, that's what McBrair's doing.
Yeah.
Well, that's why he didn't get back to me. Oh, he's been in Vancouver. Or Rudd, he's doing that. Oh, he was in fucking Berlin. That's why he didn't get back. Oh, okay.
Yeah. I just saw that movie, Mute.
Yeah. That was wild.
Rudd's not so cute in that.
Rudd is insane in that.
Yeah, he starts out cute, and then
he starts out cute. Not cute Rudd. Very quick in that movie.
Yeah, turns.
I like it. I like watching unhinged Rudd. He was in a play I saw called Grace that he was totally insane in, with Michael Shannon. And
oh, really?
They were. It was great.
And he did it? He pulled it off?
Yeah. Just seeing him nuts was great.
I guess he doesn't do it as often as he should.
I like it. I like watching him kind of play unhinged.
Yeah.
I texted him that. I said, I watched Mute. I like seeing you unhinged. He was like, oh, thanks. Like the cutest reply hearts. You know? He's like just the sweetest guy, you know?
Is he in real life?
Yeah.
I've never talked to him.
Oh, he's the nicest
Never
guy.
had him in here. I don't know why.
Oh, you should totally have him in here. He's the best.
I don't know why it hasn't happened.
He's one of my favorite people. He's such a good guy, just a good guy.
So, what have you been doing? You've been working on this Barry thing for the last year?
For no, I've been working on this. When did we pitch it? We pitched it before I shot Trainwreck. So, 2014.
Have you been in a movie recently?
I don't know. I don't think so.
Not out yet?
No, I did a movie called Noelle with Anna Kendrick, but that's not going to come out for a while.
How was that?
It was fun.
Yeah?
Yeah, it was a big Christmas movie. And
think it's going to come out around Christmas?
Not weird if it didn't. That's why I shouldn't run a studio. I'm like, let's bring this out in the summer. Like an asshole. That's me in the meeting with a bunch of people. We're going to take it out in the summer like a bunch of dipshits. What do you think?
Who'd you create Barry with?
Alec Berg. Who does,
how do I know that guy?
He worked on Seinfeld forever. He did Curb Your Enthusiasm with Larry David. And then past couple years, he's done Silicon Valley. He's the big guy. He and Mike Judge do Silicon Valley.
He's a showrunner guy.
Yeah. And very smart guy.
You guys came up with it together?
Yeah. We just sat in I got like a development deal with HBO, and then they said, turn something in, and so he and and we had the same agent.
Yeah.
And I go, I don't know anything about putting a show together, and they go, we get together with Alec Berg, and so we sat at a diner and threw it. We talked about one idea for a month and a half, and then one day we came in. And I just said, this is terrible. And he goes, yeah, I know.
What was that idea?
It was me playing a guy I went to high school with. And it was very, zero stakes.
Yeah.
It's a lot of, there could be just an episode about him, looking at his shoes or something. And that'll be fun.
It's the no idea.
The no idea, exactly. We were putting a hat on a hat on a hat on a no idea. And so it just didn't... It went nowhere. And so then I kind of out of frustration was like, what if I played a hitman? And he went, I hate hitman. Just the word hitman is so played out. I don't like that. And
yeah.
No, what was me being dumb guy from Oklahoma.
Yeah.
And then quickly we got the idea that maybe he went to an acting class. And then I was like, maybe acting class is kind of like therapy. But it's like, if you took the hitman world and made it, it's all high stakes but no drama, and then he went to this kind of shitty acting class in the Valley that's all, no stakes and high drama, and it was this funny world that he wanted to belong to, this kind of Waiting for Guffman world, but he came from this. If we can make the hitman world be very realistic, violence-wise, not cool,
right? Not cool,
not like the slow motion, two guns throwing in the air, and not make the deaths funny or not like in a glib way.
So you're just sort of like raw violence,
in that it fucks him up. And then when we went into pitch it to HBO, we're like, how an Unforgiven. Clint Eastwood, it's like he kills people and it really fucks him up and he, has destroyed his soul. It'd be like if that guy took an acting class.
How was that room? How
they were like, okay. They were great actually. They were like, no, we get it. No, we see it. Yeah. No, you should do it that way. They were kind of we just were very clear. We want the violence to be very,
so violence
real.
That your character
perpetrates, when I shoot people or strangle people, don't make it funny.
So you're not a sympathetic guy, really?
No, I think he's a confused guy. He's an ex-Marine who's kind of confused, and the way Alec always described it, he's it's like you did all this training in the Marines for something good. So it'd be like if there was someone who trained in dance, like a ballerina or something, who then to make money on hard times decides to strip.
Right.
So it's on hard times to make money, you do contract killing, but you hate it and you want to get out of it, but you're really good at it.
But you're a sociopath.
Basically, he's figuring that out. He doesn't think he is. That's a big question of like, is he a good person or is he a bad person? So
does he justify? Is there scenes where he justifies what he does because the person he's killing is bad?
Yeah. That's what that Stephen Root plays my kind of hitman agent guy or whatever. This guy I work with, my manager.
Yeah.
And that's, he's like, no, this guy's a bad guy. And I go, but I met him and he seems really nice. And it's like, no. You don't meet these people. Like, you just have to go do it, And Henry Winkler's in it. He plays the acting coach.
Oh, really?
So it's very funny, like, cause Henry, have you met Henry?
Yeah. Great
He's
guy.
like the sweetest guy in the world.
Yeah.
Oh, hello. I don't know you, but can I give you a hug? He's that guy.
Yeah.
He's so sweet. And then he plays the first scene he shot was him yelling at an actress played by Sarah Goldberg. She's amazing in the show. And we went, Henry, you got to really go at her, take 3 or 4. I was like, Henry, you got to really yell at her, And he goes, oh, let me get this straight. So this man is an asshole. And I said, yes, Henry. And he went, got it. And then he fucking unleashed this thing at this poor woman where she really started crying and we all were like, whoa! I had no idea that guy was in there, So it's like Rudd and Mute, These nice guys get to...
He's got it in there.
He's got it in there. We all have it in there someplace.
Sure.
Yeah.
He made her cry for real?
Yeah. Well, she was an amazing actress, but he really went out. Yeah.
Did you use that take?
Yeah. But she was, I think, she was in the scene. I don't think she was like, Henry, why are you making me cry?
Right, yeah.
She was,
sure.
She's this amazing actor who was kind of in the scene.
It was acted correctly.
Yeah, she was listening and reacting in character, and it went great.
What has she been in?
Sarah Goldberg was in a show called Hindsight, which was on VH1, but she's mostly known for, she was nominated for an Olivier Award for Clybourne Park, a lot of Broadway, a lot of things.
Oh, yeah?
But she's amazing. She was one of those people, like, came in and just auditioned, and we all were like, how are you not a massive movie star right now? Are we just the luckiest people on earth right now? One of those things where... the casting director is like, don't hire her in the room. And I'm like, but she can't leave because someone's going to see her and put her in something,
Oh, really?
She was that thing.
Don't hire her.
Please don't hire her in the room. Yeah, it was that thing where she saw me get really excited because I just thought she was great. And she's like, Bill, you got to let it sit for 24 hours. You can't just say you got the part after one read. And I'm like, but she's perfect. Yeah.
And you were right.
I was right. And I directed the first 3, and then...
Is that a first for you?
Yeah, that was a thing I always wanted to do, actually. Before comedy or any of that stuff was direct and write and stuff.
Were you able to really sink into it, directing yourself?
Yeah, it was a bit tough. Have you ever done anything
like
that?
I did a couple of episodes of my show, direct. It was hard because I don't know that I got the full experience.
Yeah.
You're running back to check. You're running back to watch. You're leaning on your DP a lot.
Yeah. And you're also kind of, in my experience, it was like there was one day where I didn't have to act. And I felt like that was the day where I was really getting to direct.
You can actually do the directing thing.
Yeah, Sarah Goldberg told me where she said it was very hard because we'd be in a scene. And then she didn't know if I was reacting as a character or as a director because I would make a sour face. And she's like, oh, he hates what I'm doing. or is that all right? It just put the other actors in their heads.
Yeah, right.
And
I found it tricky, but I mean, how did it feel for you?
I liked it after I got used to it, but it was tricky. It was kind of like, and we photo boarded everything first, so I kind of really did a ton of prep on it. So I was able to kind of like hand off everything. Like, here are the shots, everybody. Now I'm going to act and kind of watch the actors. And
yeah. And did you have the playback machine?
Yeah, but the nice thing is I had Alec Berg there, and when he directed episodes, I was there, so it was this nice thing of me walking back to Alec going, was that all right? Am I playing? Because he's the only other person that knows the show as well as I do, what we're going for.
Right.
So, and he's great, so he could go. One time he was like, me and Stephen Root did a take, and he goes, that was barely human. And I was like, all right, let's go for another take.
That's a bad thing?
Yeah, he's like, I don't even think that was a conversation. It didn't even like mimic human behavior. It was like two guys trying to remember lines.
Oh, really?
Yeah. That was barely human. We were like, got it. All right, let's try this again. You know?
Oh, that's wild. Yeah, because like if you're like, you can get up in your head, right?
Oh my gosh, totally. I totally get in my head, and then it's a lot of it's just having to memorize it and then just like throw it away, you know.
Yeah, well, that's like when you're in every scene. When I was doing my show, like I had to cram my head full all the time.
Yeah,
and you can't, you got to do it when you get there.
No,
You either can do it or you can't.
Well, on my first day of directing, I sat down for the pilot of the show, and I realized I didn't even thought about how I was going to play Barry. I didn't even thought about how I was going to play the character.
Right.
So I just sat there. There's a whole scene in the first episode where I barely say anything because I'm just nodding and listening because I was just cutting my dialogue because I was like, I don't fucking know how to play the guy, or is it this or it's that, because I hadn't thought about it. I've been so preoccupied with
creating it.
Yeah, creating
getting everything
it.
Set up.
Yeah, does that guy have the right shirt on? Does this person have the right, all that stuff.
But you hadn't thought about how you were going to play it for the series?
For the series, I sat down, and on the first day, it was like, wait a minute, how the fuck do I play this? You
got to make the guy up.
Yeah, I know. And then after a couple of takes, figured it out. I was like, okay, yeah, this seems right.
Is it based on anybody?
No, it's no, and the character changes throughout, which is interesting, but it is, the kind of, it's not based on anybody. Emotionally, it's kind of, I thought about when I first got Saturday Night Live, this idea of being at a community of people that you really wanted to be a part of. And the feeling of like, man, I don't want to get fired.
Right, yeah.
I want these people to, I so badly want to hang with this group.
Yeah.
And those feelings. And he gets that when he meets his acting class, this like, how do I fit in, and what do I wear, and I'll just shut up and not say much, and and that's totally how I felt when I got to the show. So it was a bit of that stuff.
Oh, good. And you like how they came out? I
love how they came out. The nice thing about it that people said who saw it was that there were the things I've heard that made me happy were they go, that is not at all what I thought it was going to be. They're like, that is very dark and very kind of emotional and stuff. And then and also it has a real kind of narrative propulsion to it, where after each, you know what I mean? Like after each episode, you're like, oh fuck, what's going to happen next? Which
cliffhangers at the end of it.
Very cliffhangery type thing. Which I
is Root funny or serious in this one?
He's really funny.
Okay.
He's kind of like those guys from Tulsa that I grew up around.
Oh, really?
He reminds me of like, guys who used to work for my dad or something. He's just kind of like a guy who plays golf.
He's a Florida guy, isn't he?
Yeah, but he has such a Midwestern vibe about him. But he's one of the best actors I've ever worked with. He and Sarah Goldberg specifically were people that when I worked with them, I don't know if you've had this experience where you go, oh shit, I really got to be on my
Are you kidding me? I'm barely an actor. I have that all the time. I'm doing all my scenes are with Allison Brie and Betty Gilpin. I'm like, oh my God,
what am I doing? Yeah, I had that on this where I'm like, oh man, or Sarah Goldberg come over. She goes, I was working on this last night, and I go, you were working on it? What do you mean you were working on it last night? Like, learning your lines? She's like, no, I know the lines, but I was thinking in this moment, it was like, what? You did what? Okay, whatever, nerd. Like, I was such a loser on that. And then it was so when you're in scenes with these people who've done,
that kind of layered up
Shakespeare and Ibsen and all this stuff, I'm like, oh, jeez, I gotta.
You can watch them acting.
I know. I'm like, I need cue cards just to know what I'm supposed to say. Yeah, so
it is something to watch. Really experienced trained actors do the thing.
Oh my God!
But you're very good at getting into character and doing
I'm
things.
like doing it.
Maybe you're just being hard on yourself.
I'm always hard on myself, but that's how I keep.
But you don't feel
forward.
Like I think it's just that you judge yourself against where they came from.
Maybe. You know what I think it is that you go, I wish I had that discipline.
Right.
I've always been that way where I just go anything.
Yeah.
I'll go, God, I wish I had the discipline to fucking sit down and write that. You know what I mean? You know, and I think I get hard on myself in that way. And that's school. That's everything, you know.
Well, I mean, at some point you have to accept that, you know, your process is working.
Yeah, exactly. No, you sound like Mulaney will say that to me. John Mulaney, I'll be like, I don't know. He's like, Bill, you're doing fine. I don't really need to hear about this anymore. Like, I just think, you're very responsible. Yeah. Just relax.
It's weird that your brain, that I have a brain like that too, where it's just, and I mean, my success is what it is, but
hugely successful.
But however I got here, it's how I got here. It's not the easiest way to do it. Being, you know, however, when you don't think you're working hard enough, or you think there's your things that you're being irresponsible, or that you should put more effort into. But like a lot of times, like waiting until the last minute, is that's how you get into the thing.
Totally, yeah. And
it's exhausting.
It's exhausting and terrifying, but that terror sometimes propels you to do a good thing. Yeah. I think it was always a feeling of just, you know, when I watched them act or them, you know, that preparation or whatever, going like, oh man, I gotta really step up my game, and it's more of just a pressure on myself to like beat them, because not in any sort of competitive way, but in a good way. It was the same thing at SNL.
They make you better.
Yeah, it's like when Marty Short or Steve Martin would come and host SNL, you were just like, oh, Jesus. You know? I remember one time Marty Short, I tried to improvise something, or we added a line and we hadn't told him yet, but it was this sketch where I was called Broadway Sizzle. Yeah. And I was playing like this Harvey Fierstein type host of the show, and he had just sang a song, and I go, how old are you? And he says, I'm 16. And the line was, I don't know if I improvised it or if they gave it to me. They probably gave it to me without him knowing. I go, are you wearing makeup? And immediately Marty Short goes, just street stuff. And it was in such a like, oh, right, you're Martin Short. I need to just fucking check myself. It was so fast. I just went, oh my God.
Just street stuff.
Just street stuff. And I just went, that's the funniest thing I'd ever heard. And, I mean,
out of nowhere.
Out of nowhere. Just street stuff. Like I haven't put in the period on the sentence yet. And he was, boom, right back at me. And you just go, right, okay, that's why you just stay in your lane, man. Don't fuck with this.
You felt like you'd lost the battle there?
No, not with a battle, but just, you know, you're trying to like mess around with them, and then you're like, they're like, boosh. They're a bomb, and you go, oh fuck, I need to just say the words and not get in the way.
In that moment, you knew it?
I knew it. I was like, oh, I'm going to like really play around with
we can
Marty
some
Short.
Fun. We're going to riff it up.
We're going to riff it up. Oh, you're a genius. I'm going to stop. That
was all of it.
I that was the only thing I had, and clearly it wasn't very good. And it was.
Did you say anything after, or you just let it go?
No, it was the greatest thing. I was laughing. I started laughing. I was
you did?
I was like, that's the funniest. He's one of the greatest guys of all time.
Yeah.
The hardest I've ever laughed. He makes me laugh more than anybody. I'm friends with him. Just so quick, but just very sweet and very,
He's another guy that hasn't been in here.
Yeah. Oh my God.
I think
Marty
we've
Short's
tried.
One of the greatest guys in the world.
Yeah, I know he is. Oh, we got to get. Who's the other one we were talking about? Oh, Paul Rudd.
Paul Rudd,
Martin Short.
Yeah, Martin Short. He's so insanely funny. He said to Paul Rudd, you know, remember when Kathy Lee Gifford did that awful thing with him where Kathy Lee Gifford asked him about his wife, and she goes, you've been married 3 years, and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. And what happened?
Martin Short's wife had passed away.
Oh.
And she didn't know it or something.
Yeah.
And so, but to his credit, Martin Short didn't say anything to her. He went, oh, it's because I'm so cute. And then at commercial break, he went, hey, just so you know, my wife passed away 3 years ago, and she felt terrible. And I think Rudd sent him an email, hey, I'm so sorry about that Kathy Lee Gifford thing. And Martin Short wrote back, I think she thought it was a rerun. I mean, just so funny.
That's so funny.
He's just so fast. But yeah, his book's amazing, I must say. It's such a great book.
It's good? And when did that come out?
That came out a couple of years ago. It's phenomenal. That's like one of my favorite
of
his autobiographies. Yeah. I've actually read it and I've listened to it.
And you guys are friends in the world?
We're friends in the world, yeah. He's like a great example of how you should be in this business, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's just such a happy guy.
Yeah.
It's never lost on him of like, can you fucking believe we get to do this for a living?
Right.
You know what I mean? That.
Yeah,
You know.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, he's very cool.
I got to get more of that.
Yeah, I know. That's why I hang out with him. Where I'm like, oh right,
Yeah.
you should be like that.
Yeah,
you know?
We should be grateful, and it's fun to entertain people.
He has these Christmas parties, and I went to one. I've been to a couple of them, and one time it was him and the whole SCTV, Catherine O'Hara and Eugene Levy, and Dave Thomas, and everybody, Andrea Martin, and they put on the SCTV Christmas special, and they all just sat and watched it, like, oh my God, there's so and so, and there's so and so, and me and other people. I mean, I was just like your idols. Watching them, and they were so normal,
younger
sweet
selves.
people, but they were just nice people. They were, they're Canadian. What do you say?
Canadians. Very pleasant.
Very pleasant. Yeah.
All right, buddy. Well, it was good seeing you.
Good seeing you.
Congrats on the new show. My girlfriend watched the trailer and she's excited about it.
That's good.
That's a good sign. That's a successful trailer.
Oh, good.
She's like, that looks funny.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Oh, good. Well, we'll see.
All right.
Thanks, buddy.
That was Bill Hader. Bill Hader. He's so funny. Sweet guy. Decent dude. Barry, his new HBO show premieres Sunday, March 25th. So listen, folks. Before we get to Nell, I want to make sure you know that Spotify is a great way to stream this podcast and many others like it on your mobile device, desktop app, and smart speaker. They've made it really easy. You just open the app on your mobile device or desktop, click on the browse channel, then click on the podcast section. You'll be able to stay thoroughly entertained whenever and wherever you listen to podcasts, thanks to Spotify. All right? You got that? All right? You got it? I'm a nutbag, man. I'm an obsessive, compulsive nut job. I was doing comedy last night. I did 3 sets at the Comedy Store. I wore one of my favorite shirts, my Filson, sort of mustardy, rust-colored flannel shirt, and I'm a guy who carries a notebook and pens, so I stuck a pen in my pocket, and I didn't close it, so now there's a fucking ink spot that I can't get out. I have many shirts that have the same markings, but I didn't want it for this shirt. I wanted this shirt to stay pristine. I love this shirt. I rarely wear it, but it looks so fucking good, and I fucked it up with a goddamn pen, and I didn't know what to do. I dabbed it with alcohol. It was too late. I washed it. I used the Oxy whatever on it, and I washed it. Nothing. It didn't come out. It's just a spot. It's just a signifier of stupidity. I can't get a pocket protector. And I knew that I might do it, and I didn't know what to do, so I went to the internet, and I searched for that shirt, which has been out of circulation for many years, because nobody really likes the color but me, I'm thinking, and that turned out to be true, because I found one on eBay, brand new, for like half price, with the tag still on. So that's where my obsession led me. I had to replace that shirt, so now I'll have 2, but knowing me, the one with the ink spot, that will be disappeared, as if it never happened. It will be goodwilled. It will be taken away in a bag. That's what happens. That's revisionism. But then I'll have the new shirt, and I'll feel just as good. Nell Scovell has written for a lot of great shows, and she's been around a long time, and she's hammered through all male writing rooms, and sort of had quite a journey. And her new memoir sort of talks about it all. It's called Just the Funny Parts. It's available in stores tomorrow. You can pre-order it now. And this is me talking to Nell Scovell. Don't be nervous. I read your book. I met you at people's houses who I like.
Okay.
Larry, I didn't really know, but I know Drew Friedman, who I like a lot, and then there was people up there that I knew. I usually don't go to those things, and I wouldn't have never met you or known you. It was one of those weird things, and you just came right up to me.
I know, but if you read the book, we have so many friends in common.
I
right?
know,
Isn't it weird we never met? But you're not so much a TV guy.
I'm not a TV guy. I'm not really a writer guy, but I do, and I've done things with people But the thing I like about the book, because I really don't usually finish books because I also don't like to do it.
We're not taping yet. Right?
Yeah, we are. But don't worry about it. Relax, will you? The thing that I don't, the reason I don't usually read the books is because then I'll lead you into, like I'll know this stuff too well. And then the conversation becomes different. But I liked the book so much I just kept reading it because it was my business. And, I knew people and I liked your story. And, I like reading about show business, but I had not read, obviously, where this is going in terms of your plight and privilege and career as a woman in this game, in this horrible racket that we all have a love-hate relationship with. I thought it was very, human and compelling. And also it was helpful. I mean, you go out of your way in this book to tell your story as a woman in show business, specifically writing and directing, but you do give pointers. Like along the way, you do say you do lay things out for people who might want to get in show business for whatever fucking reason.
Well, I didn't want it to be prescriptive. I didn't want it to be a how-to book.
Right.
And I don't think there's one path to breaking in.
Yeah.
My big suggestion is just to write a lot.
Yeah.
If you want to be a writer.
Sure. There's
a quote from my friend Amy Hone. The only way to move forward creatively is to allow yourself to be judged.
Yeah. Oh, that's interesting. Right.
And because it's not what you start and it's not even what you finish.
Right.
It's what you put out there
for
the world to see. And because what you have in your head might not be what you're relating to the audience. And you need the audience.
Sure.
As a writer.
Right. And certainly when you're doing specifically writing for audiences, it would help. But early on, I like that there was never a period in your life where, it was, I don't care what anybody thinks of this. In the sense that, some people who write fiction, they're purists and they're not writing for anybody but themselves or the art of it. Whereas a lot of the writing that you did, it seems, had to hit home. It had to, like when you started out when you were a sports writer. I mean, you had to grab people. Right.
Well, there's that great quote that before you can be a writer, you have to notice something.
Yeah.
And, so you figure out, well, what am I noticing that others are noticing? And what am I noticing that others aren't noticing?
Right. Yeah. And that's the better part, the not noticing. Yeah.
And I started as a journalist and have kept doing that throughout my TV career, mostly because I always thought the TV career could go away at any moment.
It can.
Yeah. It did.
Yeah, it's all sort of heartbreaking, this sort of, the arc of it. But yeah, let's go back because, it's interesting that you, like even back in college, I mean, where were you born?
In Newton, Massachusetts.
You were born in Newton.
Yeah.
So you were always there. Your whole family ended up in Massachusetts.
There and New Hampshire, which is sort of interesting because I used to spend 3 months a year in New Hampshire, and that's where Sarah Silverman's
from. Sure.
Too.
Yeah.
So maybe there's something in the water.
And Sandler too?
Sandler?
Yeah. I mean, I know I've been to Sarah's house, her childhood house.
Manchester,
yeah. Manchester, yeah, because we did a gig together. I went over there.
She played me on the Larry Sanders Show. They did an episode where a female writer comes in, and it was written by a friend of mine.
Yeah.
And she kind of based it on me.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
So you've known her actively for a long time?
I don't know her.
Oh, you don't know her?
No.
You never met Sarah? You've met her?
I've met her.
But you don't know her?
I do not know her.
Huh. Isn't that odd? Why don't you know her?
Well, I don't know that many performers.
Right.
I mean, writers and...
Yeah.
everyone's working so hard, right?
That's true.
Unless you're working on a show with them.
Yeah. And it's hard to, maintain friendships or relationships in this business, really. I guess it's hard for anybody because you're busy and you only have a couple of good friends in any lifetime, really, right?
What's surprising to me is I thought the people I was friends with in my 30s, I would be friends with forever.
Yeah.
And that didn't work out.
None of them?
No, some of them, but not all of them. And I would have thought by 30 you're kind of fully formed.
Yeah.
But, then they marry people or you marry someone.
Right. And then they drift away. But so like growing up in Newton, like I did time, in the Boston area.
Yeah.
Like I know some of those. I know a lot of those areas. I started doing comedy in Boston. But so how many kids? There was a lot of kids in your family, right?
Right. So there were 5.
Yeah.
And I'm the third girl and the middle child. So it's very, I'm funny, pay attention to me.
Right.
So my family was really bookish.
Yeah.
We didn't watch a lot of TV. The expectation was you would be a doctor or a lawyer. There was no one in my family in the entertainment business.
Sure.
But everyone was funny.
Right.
And my dad's really funny. My aunts are hilarious. My sister was once on the couch reading Little Women, and my Aunt Pinky walked by her, tapped her on the shoulder, and said, "Don't get too attached to Beth."
Yeah. Clever.
Very clever.
Yeah.
And my Aunt Jane would tell dirty jokes, which was amazing when you're a kid.
Yeah. Sure. It's great to have that one, sort of slightly wrong aunt or uncle. You need them.
I mean, it's a role model.
Sure.
And she got really positive attention, too, for being funny. And I think that was really great for me to see. And then it was, so I'm a couple of years older than you. I was born in 1960.
Right.
And so I was just in this sweet spot. I get to high school and Saturday Night Live comes on and Monty Python starts airing.
Right. I was a little younger, right.
In Boston.
Yeah. So you were more cognizant. I was in junior high. I remember I watched the first season of SNL pretty religiously, but it must have been different, as a high school student when those kind of feelings and thoughts are starting to happen.
Right. And you're memorizing the bits
sure.
and saying them the next day. Oh, and another amazing thing.
Yeah.
That was just the luck of being born when I was born is if you were born after, let's say, 1975, you didn't have something that I did, which was I got to watch a late night female TV host. Joan Rivers was guest hosting Carson for years.
Sure.
I always thought she was way funnier than Johnny. She talked a little like my aunts.
Right, sure, yeah.
And so that also was in my psyche.
So what compels you to to sort of pursue this? So you're watching all these things that we watched when we were kids.
And
Monty
the Marx
Python.
Brothers. And
Marx Brothers you must have got that from your dad or from an aunt, or where'd you come?
Channel 38 and Channel 56.
Yeah, that's right, in the East Coast, right? And in Jersey, it was like Channel 11. I'd see that stuff when I was at my grandparents', but I don't remember getting it in Albuquerque, New Mexico.
Oh.
So in high school, did you write?
Yes, but I was on the school newspaper and did... But
what made you want to write? I mean, what was that moment, when you decided that this was something you could do?
Well, it was when I realized I couldn't do anything else.
Come on.
No, I went into college thinking I was pre-med. I'd always been good at math and sciences in high school.
Yeah.
And I just kind of hit that conceptual wall of calculus and organic chemistry.
Yeah. And you couldn't get through that.
Yeah.
It was too hard?
Oh, and then, so when I was in college, there was this big push to major in East Asian studies because China was the awakening giant.
Yeah.
So I thought, all right, well, I'll be an East Asian studies major. And I took Chinese, which was the hardest thing. It's tonal, and I'm good at languages. I know Spanish and French, and I've studied Russian, but Chinese took me down hard. And one day I come back.
Because there's no structure to it, really, in the same way.
Well, you have to hear the different tones.
Right.
And
that's not your bag. So what were you saying? What were you going to say?
I'm not a musician.
Right.
So I come back, and my roommate, who was an English major, was reading Mill on the Floss. And I just have this freak out. I speak English. I speak English very well. Why aren't I an English major? And so I switched.
Oh, that was it.
That was it.
Now, you went to Harvard for your whole undergrad?
Yes.
Yeah. So it's obviously a great school, but you actually didn't have to leave town. You
I know.
You just kind of went across the river.
And I had 3 siblings there, too.
So you guys were all hardworking, good students.
We were type A. Thank you.
Yeah, which must have made your family very happy. Did you see Conan O'Brien Can't Stop? The documentary.
I think it's always funny when you take like a type A personality.
Right.
And instead of putting it in investment banking, you put it in comedy.
It's a bit much, huh?
Well, I mean, it's just...
That's what The Simpsons is. The Simpsons feels
right.
That is what that looks like in its purest form.
I think that's fair.
I've been doing Conan's show for years, since the beginning, and it's just he definitely works. He works twice as hard. As someone with a more natural timing. It's a very funny thing to watch him, because I don't know that this is an insult necessarily, but like when he needs to save a beat, if you're tanking on the couch, and he's got to step in because to lift the segment, he's got to go on a roller coaster. Like it's always going to be like whoa,
Well, see, I agree he's working hard, but here's how I see it. So my very first job in TV was on a short-lived show on Fox called The Wilton North Report.
Yeah.
And to give you an idea of how bad this show was, when I was working on the book, we had to call and ask permission to use a photo from it.
Yeah.
They have nothing in their data banks about the Wilton North Report. To Fox, the show never existed. They have wiped it from their corporate memory.
No kidding.
Yeah.
I've been on a show like that. I hosted a game show once. There's no evidence of it anymore for VH1.
Oh, that's funny.
No, it's great.
So Wilton North Report, this terrible, terrible show, and the one good thing I got out of it was the two guys in the office next to me who became my best friends out here were Greg Daniels and Conan O'Brien.
Yeah. And,
we just spent stupid amounts of time together like you do in your 20s. But one of my favorite Conan stories is I had a friend visiting me, and she's really pretty. And you could see we were sitting on our office. We were right on the same hallway. And Conan starts walking down that day, and he's singing, "Oh, I'm the greatest lover in the world. All the ladies love to..." Oh, Lynn, Nell, sorry. Didn't know you were in there. And what I love is Conan was Conan for an audience of two.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's always been that way.
Yeah.
I was at a birthday party once. It was someone's 30th birthday, and Conan was there, and they were opening everyone's packages, and he opens Conan's card, and he laughs really hard. And, of course, Conan's so funny, right?
Right.
And everyone's like, what did he say? And he just passes it to the next person who opens it and laughs. And finally it gets to me, and I open it, and it says, "Please throw back your head and laugh when you read this. Yes, I'm pathetic."
Yeah. He's very funny. I liked seeing him sort of evolve and grow. I mean, I started doing his show when I was in 96. So a couple years in, and he was tangibly panicked. And, but he figured it out.
Yeah.
I think that's what Harvard people do. They figure it out. They just keep blasting away. But you didn't start writing comedy. You weren't in the Lampoon. You didn't go to...
No, I was, terrified by the Lampoon. I went to one comp meeting, and
what does that mean, the comp meeting?
Well, because it's Harvard, you can't just sign up to do something like you should be able to do because you're interested. You've got to compete to get on the board. So I went to this comp meeting, and they talked about how many pieces you had to write. I think it was 8 pieces, but the process was they would throw it on the ground, and people would write comments on the back that others could read. It sounded like it had real humiliation potential.
Right. It's sort of a baptism in fire thing, Right.
And I was happy writing sports for the Crimson.
So that's what you ended up doing.
Yeah.
So you bail on humor. Now, was Conan there at the time? Did you know Conan in college? Was he?
He was a freshman when I was a senior.
Okay. But you didn't know each other? No. So you decided to focus on writing for the paper.
I did, and it's I was a associate sports editor, and the sports editor was Jeff Toobin.
Yeah. Oh, really?
We all know as a
the lawyer, right?
Analyst.
Isn't he a lawyer?
Yeah, but he went to law school, but he wrote the OJ book.
Right. I know. He's on CNN all the time.
Yeah,
but he was a sports guy.
He was, and he's one of the most entertaining people on the planet.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he's great. And then senior year, I went pro. I got hired by the Boston Globe to cover high school sports.
That's right. That's when you were mentioning all these towns that I had found myself in performing one-nighters of comedy.
Marblehead and Bourne and all.
Sure.
Yeah.
I don't know where Bourne is, but I know where Marblehead is. I know where Fall River is. I know where Leominster is.
And how to pronounce it.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, Saugus.
Saugus.
Yeah, I used to work in Saugus. A few gigs out there on Route 1. I know that area. I know those places. Yeah, I was all over that town. But so you were doing that. You were running around covering high school sports?
High school football. And this was pre-climate change, so I was freezing my ass off.
Yeah.
And I always liked working. I liked earning a paycheck. That gave me a sense of value and worth. And I could not get out of college fast enough and just start.
It's also fun to get out in the world and have that experience of driving places and covering things and seeing different towns and how different people sort of live. And New England is full of colorful characters.
Yeah, but they don't play sports. So when you ask things like, can you talk to me about the game? And they say, we said we were going to do it and we did it.
And that's it.
And that's it.
Thank you for your comment.
And I was used to, like, the Harvard coaches are all erudite and they would quote Thucydides. And so, after covering high school sports, I kind of thought maybe I don't want to do this forever.
Well, sure. But what's the trick to it? I mean, what was the trick that you learned? I mean, covering sports that sort of you carried with you for your life as a writer. I mean, there was, you had to, there is a style to it. I'm not a sports guy, but like there is something you got to do.
Right. I mean, it's finding the emotion and so it's not just a numbers game.
Right.
And then it's finding the comedy. So the sports lead is you're allowed to make jokes, in a way that you can't in a regular news story.
Right.
I tell this story in just the funny parts about how I was covering Harvard men's track, and they were at a big regional tournament. And after the first day, they were tied for second. And I just thought, like, the comedy gods had given me this lead, which was, if a tie for first is like kissing your sister, then a tie for second is like French kissing her.
Yeah.
And I turn it in, and the editor's like, we can't run this. This is offensive. And that's when, I say that, if you're in comedy and you've never offended anyone, then you haven't gone far enough. And if you always offend people, then you're an asshole.
Yeah, or a professional comedian.
And I moved to New York, and I mean, the big lucky break for me was Spy magazine came along just as I was entering the workforce.
Yeah, that was that changed the entire culture, I think, Spy magazine. I mean, what year was that?
86?
Yeah. Like, I mean, that was like the cutting edge sort of post Lampoon satire magazine. Right.
And it was really taking the air out of the puffed up balloons of the culture.
It was a specific, had an agenda to level the rich and snooty.
And our favorite short fingered vulgarian, I mean, came from Spy.
Mm-hmm. You guys picked on him pretty heavy back in the day.
Very heavy. And by the way, he had other joke names. There was, Queensborn failed casino operator, but that didn't catch on.
Too wordy.
I always kind of liked that one.
Yeah.
Failed casino operator.
Sure.
So Spy was great. And then,
what did you do for Spy exactly?
I was the first reporter they hired, and, I wrote a piece called Too Rich and Too Thin about these society women who were both. And one of my favorite pieces was I got this idea to stand in front of Lincoln Center at 7:45 and ask people, how do you get to Carnegie Hall? And then I took down how many gave me the punchline, how many gave me directions, how many gave me wrong directions, and one person who gave me the wrong punchline and said, study, study, study.
Right.
So then I got hired away by Vanity Fair. Tina Brown called me, offered me more money than I ever thought I would ever make in my whole life.
Uh-huh.
And so I was working at Vanity Fair, and I was writing, she would call them Nell things, which were mostly visual, or short pieces with a visual component. And then one day I bumped into an old spy editor who said to me, I don't mean this as an insult, but I think you could write for TV. And that truly was the first time it ever occurred to me.
Really? You never thought about SNL as a writer's show? You never thought about any of that? About TV as an occupation?
No, I thought about like movie writing, screenwriting.
Sure, you heard about that.
Yeah.
Yeah. But not TV writing.
Not TV
writing. I guess that makes sense. Like, because the arc of the book is really in dealing, like, I guess the sort of boys club nature of things you did see in college and at the sports, writing for sports, I would imagine. But when did it start to, really start to affect you? When did you start to be aware of it in a way that, you realized it was a liability or that you had to fight, just being a woman?
Well, I thought we had fixed equality when I got out of college in the, early 80s. Sure. I really did. And I thought, Gloria Steinem had led the fight and
everything was good.
Everything was good. And, I read the book Backlash and was like, okay, that's happening to some people. Mm-hmm. So I didn't go into it thinking my gender would either help or hurt me.
Right. Into writing.
I do remember, though, on that first job at Wilton North Report, after it got canceled, I was sitting with Greg and Conan and these two other guys, and we were talking about, like, what should we do next and what shows. And one of the other guys, this guy Phil, said to me, well, you're lucky, Nell. And I said, why am I lucky? And he said, well, every show's looking for a woman. And I said, a woman and 9 guys. How does that make me lucky? Yeah. So even, I guess back then, I sort of understood that the odds were not in your favor. Yeah. If you were a female.
Sure. So.
And that, by the way, that's the perception from men is I was lucky.
Yeah. Oh,
because there's a slot. So if I can get that slot,
right.
I'm
It's
good.
like the affirmative action hire.
Yeah. The token.
Yeah. The token.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I've been guilty of it. I mean, after when I read the book, like, I know that I did a show on IFC for 4 years and we didn't have a woman writer. And, and I felt bad. I mean, we had a woman director, but my writing room was small and I made excuses like you said. But, we learn, we evolve.
Your show might still be on the air if you had hired women.
No, I stopped it. I was in full control of that.
Oh, okay.
But now I'm on a show where I'm surrounded.
Oh, with glow. Yeah,
women,
that's great.
On the creative, on the technical, and on the in front of the camera. It's a lot of women.
Yeah. And do you feel like it makes a difference?
Sure. I mean, I don't know that I noticed. I guess in the writer's room or whatever, you get it, there is a boys club nature to it. I'm not really that kind of bro guy, but, there is the fear that you won't be able to be, the pigs that you are.
Yeah.
If you have a woman, but that turns out to be a good thing. It's maybe good that you don't be the pigs that you are. But no.
Although I do love, there are a couple of times where I've been in those situations where the guys forgot I was there, and so they said the thing you shouldn't say.
Sure.
There's one super famous comedian whose name I would not mention, who I'll never forget saying, the best thing about being famous is you forget how tight teenage pussy is.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And how'd you respond to that?
Well, I love being in those moments because I feel like that's the real thing.
Well, yeah, but right. It's the real thing that needs to be corrected, or it's the real thing of like, I'm glad I got to observe that. I think that's the tricky thing about, because then there's a sort of like hiring women who can hang with the guys, but it seems like that's not really what needs to happen either.
Right.
Because then it becomes a harassing atmosphere. You have to put up with this shit.
Right.
A working space of respect where,
right.
I mean, that's what the evolution is towards, not sort of like, she's one of us, she can take it. And then you go home and feel like shit.
Yeah, no, that's true. I think a lot about David Foster Wallace's, commencement speech, which is called This is Water. And it starts with a joke about two young fish are swimming along and an older fish swims by and says, "How's the water, boys?" And one fish turns to the other and says, "What's water?"
Right.
And bias is all around us and we're swimming in it.
Yeah.
And I've been biased and you've been biased. And the more we recognize that and acknowledge it and call it out, the more progress we can make.
Yeah, progress. And also it's sort of like, it's one of those things where you don't know in that joke, in that story. Like, you don't know.
Yeah.
You know, you're like, I guess that is that.
Yeah.
You know, you're so set in your ways, or you're set in your habits, or culturally you're, it's always been the way you remember it.
Right.
And so a lot of times when something changes, your first reaction is to be like, oh, fuck this.
Or you're lucky.
Right.
Right?
Yeah. Right. Well, there's that. But then, like, I think as you start to, be empathetic and see your own part in things, that you're like, this is the right thing to do, whatever that is, But like when you started, the guy from Spy says you should write TV, and then what do?
Oh, so I write a spec script.
Yeah. For?
It's Gary Shandling's show.
Oh, yeah.
Because I should have written one for, The Cosby Show, which was the big show at the time. But my favorite show was It's Gary Shandling's show, which broke the fourth wall. I actually like that show better than the Larry Sanders. And I got an agent off my Spy articles.
Yeah.
And they sent, it was Gavin Pallone, who you might know, and Gavin also represented Al Jean and Mike Reese.
And Conan?
Yes, he does. Yeah.
So he was like, this is when Gavin was a manager at UTA?
No, he's an agent at ICM.
At ICM.
Like maybe just barely not an assistant.
Huh.
And so he sends my spec script to Mike and Al, and they give it to Alan Zweibel, and then I get a call from Gavin saying they bought it, which it's like you're a rookie and you, in your first at bat, you hit a home run.
Right.
So they said, well, they want to fly you out. They'll give you notes on the script. And I said, wow, that's great. So like the next week, in I think it was maybe Sunset Gower, and, I meet Gary, who, does like a double take when he sees me in Zweibel's office. Like, what is this girl doing here? And, Alan said she wrote that spec script we liked about the party line. And, Gary says to me, you write like a guy.
Right.
Which at the time was a huge compliment. Right.
Yeah.
And now, like, I look back and kind of think, that's the problem.
Right. Yeah. Now, when you're putting this together and you're having this awakening or these moments of awareness around this stuff, I mean, at the time, but how do you frame that in your head now? I mean, he was still giving you a compliment.
Oh,
right?
Yeah. No, and I love Gary, and to finish the story, he didn't feel like giving notes that day. So we said, can we do this some other day? And we ended up playing ping pong on the set.
And you can play.
I can play a little. And then I went home and they decided not to buy that script. And they asked me to do another script. The pitch was 2 words, haunted condo.
Right.
Pretty funny.
Yeah.
And so I wrote another script, and they didn't make that one either, but they paid me.
Right. So that was the first paid gig.
Yeah, that was my first paid gig.
And that got you what? That got you out here, or did it, not yet?
Not yet. Wilton North got me out here.
Yeah.
And then I kept going. And then when that was canceled, I go back to New York. And then I try to get on Letterman. That's really the holy grail, right?
To write for David.
To write for Dave. He's the funniest man on TV.
Right.
And I send him my packet, and I don't hear anything from them, but the Smothers Brothers did a 20th anniversary special in 1988. And they brought back all the old writers like Steve Martin and Bob Einstein and Mason Williams.
Wow.
And the show did so well that CBS picked them up for another 5, 6 episodes. So they couldn't get the same staff. Like Steve Martin's not going to come do it. So I have no idea how it happened. They got my material. I mean, I know my agent sent it, and I get a call. Do you want to meet? The guy was in New York. So we meet, and there was a little misunderstanding. He had read my Letterman material, and he thought I wrote on the show. So I had to explain that, no, that was just a submission. But secretly, I was thinking, like, oh, he thought it was good enough to be on this show.
Right. Did you find you got along with everybody? I mean, did you look up to them from before? You were probably, I was too young. Yeah.
And in fact, when they asked me if I knew about the Smothers Brothers, I said yes, and then ran to the Museum of Broadcasting.
Right. That's what you had to do. I remember when I went to watch Woody Allen's variety show, when he did a variety show on NBC or somewhere. Like, there were certain bits of television. There was no YouTube. You had to go down to that museum, and you had to wait sometimes to get a booth. And then they had to call up the stuff. You had to tell them what you wanted.
Yeah.
Jack Parr, I went to watch Jack Parr shows.
Oh, that's great.
Because I think I was auditioning for a hosting job. I wanted to see.
Oh, that's smart.
How the history of it. But that's so funny. You had to go do that.
I did that, and I was so relieved because they were really funny.
Right.
Like genuinely. And they, it's such a smart way to do a sketch where you start with a song, you interrupt, you do your bit.
Yeah.
And bits never have good endings. They just go back to the song.
Right.
Big finish. Everyone applauds.
Right.
It's brilliant.
Yeah. And that was their thing.
Yeah.
And so, like, your type A brain was sort of like, I get how this works.
Yes.
I can write within this system, this context. So you get the gig, and what happens? Do you move to LA then, or what? Not yet.
Not yet. I don't even buy a car. I end up, my first night there, I'm having dinner with Tom Smothers, and he says, well, I got a maid's room in this huge place that CBS rented for me. And it was pretty cool because it was in this apartment house right near the Chateau.
Yeah.
And Betty Davis lived there.
Oh, wow.
So, like, one of my first days working in Hollywood, I'm, like, waiting for the elevator with Betty Davis.
Come on.
Yeah. And Chris Guest lived there, too, so it's
wow.
very cool.
That's great.
Yeah.
So you saw Betty Davis. So that's like,
I know.
That means something. It's what's wild about Hollywood. If you do have the fascination or the bug, when you come out here and you just see the history of it and people around, it's kind of heavy. It's kind of great.
Yeah, this was just around the corner from where the Garden of Allah apartments were, and that's where, like, Dorothy Parker lived, and so it was...
Wow.
That was pretty fun.
So you moved into Tommy's maid's quarters?
Yeah, for a while. Once we went into production, I moved out. So,
but, and also, like, in the book, you sort of, like, again, are looking at these events in your life through the lens of an enlightened woman now. So they're the way you read them now, that, that there's to put in context the maid's quarters. Like, well, I was working for him. It did feel weird, but, you did feel on some level that there was a subservience that was expected. Right.
I think it's unique to Hollywood. There aren't the same rules.
There's not, right? There's not real rules.
Yeah.
It's sort of the system was set up because you're making dreams out here, and
That's right.
and you're making, something that transcends reality. So, what are you willing to do for that, to be part of that?
Right. And yes, we mess around with reality. I mean, it's one of the reasons I think, a real estate guy like Donald Trump was, attracted to coming into show business.
Well, yeah, but he's also he's like a hustler. He's like, a snake oil salesman. He's always been a showman. That's always been part of it. But yeah.
I mean, the sexual harassment of women is codified in Hollywood, and we even gave it that cute name, the casting couch.
Right. Why? That's what I've talked about that with people before. It's been this way since the beginning of this business. You know, like, I mean, you know, they knew what they were taking advantage of, you know, a lot of talented people, beautiful people are vulnerable. They're insecure. Some of them are fucked up because of it. Yeah. And there was always, I think, a lot of, predatory nature to it. Yeah. To the sort of Faustian deal, you know, women had to make. Yeah. To be part of this world.
But do you think the casting couch would have been as acceptable if they called it the rape sofa?
No, I don't think. I think that's not as cute.
Not as cute. That didn't catch on. I tried to get that to go.
But I thought that, you know, in handling your own story about that, your own Me Too story, you know, with Jim Stafford of all people.
I know, it's so cheesy. Oh my God, why couldn't it have been Glenn Campbell? I mean,
but I thought the way you wrote it, I don't know how much. I mean, I imagine you thought about it quite a bit. That because it was one of those situations where the lines blurred and you would follow through with something that you didn't want to follow through with, but you were in the situation and you did. But the one detail you put in there was pretty great.
I know. It's all real. It's just a fact.
But yeah, but what you chose, you know, to not make it, necessarily more sordid, but to make it pathetic, was that, you know,
or funny.
Same thing a lot of times.
Yes, that's true.
Was that the hairpiece moment, which I thought was pretty brilliant. That was pretty good because it was awful. Yeah, you felt awful for you. You know, he was kind of awful.
Yeah.
You know.
It kind of tells you what you need to know about him.
Yeah.
You know, I spoke with a lawyer and they said, look, if this is truth, that's a defense. Just don't include any details that you're not 100% certain about. So this was a long time ago and I'm not going to give everything away now, but I'll just say, because I want people to read the book.
Sure.
But I do find out that he's wearing a hairpiece.
Yeah.
So I started Googling, does he wear a hairpiece? Like, am I certain of that? And I did find this book written about rock stars, and there was a chapter about vanity, and he's in there listed under musicians who wear hairpieces.
Oh, good. So you found it.
So I've got backup.
I tell you, if that's the only thing if he comes after you for that, he's got bigger problems. You know what I mean? You know, I mean, like if that's what he locks into, it's like, yeah, the other part was true, but fuck the hair.
Well,
yeah.
I've had no contact with him, and you know, I'm going to guess he quote doesn't remember it the same way.
Right, of course.
But
But like, let's set that up a little bit. So you got the job in the Smothers Brothers writing room, and a series of events happened. There was a change, right, in staffing, and Jim Stafford, you didn't sense liked you to begin with.
No, he did not.
That you were really the only woman in the room, and this was a bunch of, well, at least under his guidance was just sort of a boys club. But
yeah, no, Mason Williams was amazing. Mason was a mentor.
Yeah.
And Jim was this guy who we'd be sent off to come up with cold opens over the weekend, and I'd walk in on Monday with my ideas, and he would say, "Oh, thanks, Nell, but some of the boys and I sat around the pool this weekend, and we worked it all out." Yeah. So you can't be good at your job if you're not even participating.
Sure. And that was the way he had set it up. And he was a singer. He wasn't even really a writer, was he?
No, it was a novelty act.
Yeah. I mean, he had a hit that Spiders and Snakes. I remember that. I was in junior high, I think.
Yeah, it was huge.
I don't like spiders and snakes. Yeah.
Well, I really don't like spiders and snakes.
But ultimately what happened was that, you know, you still, despite knowing what was going on, you felt compelled to try to keep pleasing these people.
Sure.
Or him.
Right, and that's part of... You know, that's type A, and that's the subjectiveness of this business, too, right? Like, your jokes will be funnier if the people like you.
Right. So then you just found yourself in an awkward situation.
Well, he manipulated me into an awkward situation at the rap party, yeah. It's weird. I've never really talked about it. Isn't that You know, it was a long time ago. And so I always laugh when people say, well, why didn't they bring it up earlier? It's, you know, it's hard. It's just, and I'm privileged and had a lot of success.
Yeah.
And even I couldn't do it because it's, well, for me, it's, I don't like admitting I was a victim in any way.
Yeah. And it's hard because in those situations that, you know, whether you become paralyzed in the moment or you act against your own self-interest because you think you should, that like I imagine in your mind that it clouds things a little.
Well, I was really touched by your story about your philosophy professor.
Yeah.
And by the way, one of the things about me too is I've had so many male friends open up and tell me stories that range from, you know, inappropriate touching from the swim instructor to like full on rape.
Yeah.
And I think I don't like this is a time for men to shut up and listen. I disagree completely. I think this is a time for everyone to speak up and to work together.
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah. And I think a lot of us have those stories. I mean, power, you know, dynamics, abusive power dynamics happen, you know, sexualized abusive power dynamics happened, in both genders, either way.
The definition of power is getting someone to do something that you want them to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I was thinking
Is that the definition?
Well, that's my definition.
I like it.
A definition.
Yeah.
So, I don't know if this works. You'll tell me. I thought of this driving over as an example of what it's like to be coerced into something that you might not want to do, and how I would love the point to be made that consent is not the same as she did it. Mm-hmm. Right? There are differences. So let's say you're at the bank because you're old and you don't do all your checking online. So you're actually in the bank when a bank robber comes in armed and he rounds everyone up and says, I'm going to put you in the vault. And he tells everyone to march over to the vault and to get in. Now, one person, let's say, is claustrophobic and really doesn't want to go into the vault. But let's say you're that person. What do? You go into the vault because the threat of harm is so great. That's going to take precedence over other fears.
Yeah, I think that's true.
Right?
My first thought was like, I just make such a scene that like, I can't go in. Yeah. It's like,
Well, you might, but then other people might say, shh, just go along.
No, I get that.
Do it.
Yeah.
So then, you know, you're let out, and maybe 9 out of those 10 people are fine with being marched into the vault. But one person was traumatized by that event.
Right.
And, you know, if you went to the bank robber and said, you traumatized that person, and they said, well, that's not how I remembered it. I just asked her nicely to go into the vault, and she walked in on her, you know, own accord. Well, yeah, I had a gun, but I didn't point it at her.
Sure.
And I think do you think that's a good example?
Kinda, except that like the banker would be like, look, I'm a fucking bank robber.
That's true. Why are you asking me?
Yeah. What do you want me to do with him? I'm sorry, she got upset. What do you want from me? I got to rob the bank.
Think she didn't fight back.
Yeah.
But the threat of harm to your career is real. And that's why you go along with things that you might not otherwise go along with.
Yeah, and I also think there's the wanting to get ahead and be accepted and to try to be liked, but there's also I think there's also sometimes you comply hoping that it will stop.
Yes. Oh, absolutely.
And I think that the other side of that is like, okay, if I just let him do this, maybe we can put this to rest.
Yeah.
But that doesn't happen, and then you've fucked yourself more. Because now you're uncomfortable about that. The relationship becomes weird. Yeah, there's no winning it. But throughout this book, which I don't think we're really talking about, is you know, you do give sort of life lessons about, writing and show business and working with people and men you trust and women you trust and, how hard, writing for television and writing in general is. But then,
and it's hard for everyone.
Sure.
Yeah.
But, beneath that, there is this other thing where, I found it, sort of disconcerting and horrible, when that guy edited when you guys were writing with somebody.
Oh yeah, at Charmed, and he rewrote every.
But as a tactic, like when cause I'm not that, I'm rarely that political a thinker, in terms of, you know what I mean?
I'm the worst.
Fucking somebody.
Yeah.
For the long haul, like that guy, what happened exactly?
He and I were co-writing an episode. It was a sweeps episode for Charm.
And you were a staff writer?
No, I'm co-EP, and he's EP. And we turn it in. He loves my teaser act 1 and 2, and he wrote 3 and 4.
Right.
And then while we're waiting for it to go into production, I get a call from my agent. His contract's up, and they say, they're curious if you'd be willing to step up if his contract doesn't make.
So he's probably holding out for more money.
Right.
And they're asking to see if they probably lowball you into the job.
Exactly.
Right.
But I'm not going to play this game because I know that helping your boss makes you valuable, and threatening your boss does not.
Right.
So I say, look, I'm not going to entertain any talk until he decides what he wants to do. But I'm pretty sure he got wind of it because the day of our table read, and the draft has been in production for weeks, I sit down and he turns to me, I'm next to him, and he says, I made a few changes last night. And I think, okay, no big deal.
Yeah.
I open up the script, and the way a change has been made is there's an asterisk on the margin. For my 3 acts, they're just all asterisks. I describe it like, all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy. Right. It's just like I'm riffling through the papers, and it was really humiliating because, I think it would be very easy for him to have made it clear to the cast and all the executives who come to the table read that it looked like he had rewritten every line of mine, when in fact he was adding commas.
Right.
He was changing also to 2.
Yeah. Right. So it was not major changes, but just enough to get the asterisk to make you look like stupid.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was just sort of mind-blowing to me.
I know.
But then there was the other sort of situation where it's more subtle. Like, what was the writing room where... What was the whole tampon riff?
Oh, that was at Letterman. That was my first day at Late Night with David Letterman, which was the NBC show, and this is 1990.
But this is like, so maybe we should go back. You did have good experiences. I mean, you did.
Yes.
You did. You wrote for Newhart's second show,
right? In the final season.
And were there women in the room there?
They didn't make it through the whole season, but there were when I got there.
And you stayed through the whole season?
I did. I hung on.
But it's so funny to me that you didn't really get to know Bob or anything. Like, like my writers, they were always around, like when, in terms of on set or when needed. But I think it was different then where you were. And I never worked on a network show.
I was shy. I was new. It was my first sitcom. And, decades later, I watched this TED Talk that Sheryl Sandberg gave, where she talked, the first thing she spoke about is that women need to sit at the table.
Right.
And it resonated so strongly because I was the one who, instead of sitting at the table, would sit in the chairs around the periphery.
Uh-huh. And, right.
So it's both literal and metaphorical, which is why I love it.
Right. I get it. For you. But yeah, it does make sense. But see, like, well, I guess what the point I'm making is that by the time you took the job at Letterman, you had done, a lot of stuff.
Newhart and The Simpsons and The Smothers Brothers.
But not Coach yet? No.
No, that came after.
But The Simpsons, like, let's talk a little bit about that, because that seemed to be, a room full of nerds that were respectful of women. No? No.
No. Well, I got in on the ground floor because I watched the premiere and I called my agent and said I want to write for the show. It was just so mean. I loved it.
Yeah.
And so they brought me in for the second season.
Yeah.
And I wrote the Fugu episode, the Blowfish episode.
Yeah.
And it was a really good experience. And I don't tell this story in the book, but I'll tell it now that there were writers pushing for me to be hired on staff.
Uh-huh.
And apparently Sam Simons said, I'm going through a divorce. I don't want any women in the room. Mm. And it was another 5 years, over 100 more episodes before another woman wrote an episode after mine. And mine went incredibly smoothly. You know, it turned out to be a fine episode. So that was disappointing. But
you seem to find you find room for kindness for Simon, in writing about him in retrospect. But that was clearly.
Well, it's called Just the Funny Parts. I almost wrote just the angry and bitter parts, but it's like 8 volumes.
Right. I get it. But that's really a heinous story. That that he would, keep women out of that room for that long because of, his personal feelings that were, but he was clear about it at least. He wasn't pulling any punches.
I know. Yeah. Thank you for your clarity. But I get to Letterman and I did have a lot more experience. Most of the writers, it was their first TV job.
Right. And I guess I'm just trying to cause it has been up and down, but the Wilton North report, you were friends with Conan, you met these guys.
Yeah.
And that was a good experience. Smothers Brothers, not good.
No, good.
But because of Tommy, but because of Stafford, it got weird and bad. And Newhart was good.
Mostly. Yeah.
Right. But you weren't feeling, sexualized or isolated or.
Well, one of the EPs walked by. Was overheard in the office screaming, "Women cause nothing but pain." But I don't know.
But we don't know if that was his personal life.
We think it was personal. No, I made it to the end, so that was good. And that show had this guy, Bob Benditson, who was total mentor to me and really believed in me and taught me a ton. So that was, that's what you try to find, that one good person in the bad experience, right?
Of course. Yeah. There's always horrible experiences. And then, if you're in an ensemble or a group of people, there will be somebody that will provide a reprieve or some wisdom that you can hopefully latch on to.
Right. Well, I talk about when evaluating shows to work on, I talk about the 3 Ps, which is people, process, and product.
Uh-huh.
And so, the people are, who are you spending all day with? The process is, well, how long are the days?
Yeah.
And the product is it something you're proud of? Is it something that's popular?
Yeah.
And those are 2 different things.
Sure.
It is very rare to get 3 out of 3. Uh-huh. And it's really happened once in my entire career.
Which was with?
Murphy Brown, which was a terrific experience. And then, you're lucky if you get 2. If you like the people and you're making a good product, but yes, the hours are long, so that's sad, but,
sure.
That's okay. And then there are a lot of shows where it's just 1.
Right.
Where it's like the process and the product are not good, but the people are.
But it is sort of interesting, though, on the side that you are working in, which I never did and I wouldn't do, as a TV writer, is that, you throughout the book, you talk about how you have to be somewhat cynical, in a way, because of the disappointment and the rejection. Right. And, your expectations are constantly tempered and that, the things that seem great and are going, don't go for dumb reasons or maybe reasons that you don't even know. It's a relentless, horrible, disappointing life. Yet, at the end, you sort of frame it like a rat pushing a food pellet button. I don't know. I can only think about it for myself.
Yeah.
That if 2 of the P's out of the 3 P's aren't happening more than once for me, I'm not fucking doing that anymore. Again, I'm not a type A personality, but it's like, but it seemed that you sort of leveled off on wanting to direct, and that even the experience. Well, let's talk about Letterman and then talk a little bit about Sabrina, because I was curious about that. So the Letterman thing, in that I mentioned the tampon thing because you mentioned it. What happened that first day?
Oh, well, I'm the only female writer. I'm the first one since Meryl Marco left the show a couple of years before I got there. And one writer stops by my office and we have this really nice exchange. We have friends in common. And then at the very end, he pauses and he pointed at me and said, "Before this is over, I'll see a tampon fall out of your purse."
Yeah.
And walks away. So I thought, well, that's weird. Why would he have said that?
It is weird. It's weird no matter how you slice it. Yeah.
Yeah. And I come up with a theory in the book about why I think he did it. Because you could have also made it, before this is over, I will hear you fart.
Yeah.
Like if he just wanted to bring up some embarrassing bodily function,
right,
he didn't have to go to the one thing that singled me out from everyone else.
Right. And then that environment is notoriously undiversified. The Letterman show was. Yeah.
Yeah.
And, ultimately you did, you wrote a big piece on that.
Right. 19 years later. In fact, I was working on Warehouse 13 at the time.
The Sci-Fi Channel show.
Which I loved. It's such a good show.
Well, that's interesting. Like you made because you were such a sci-fi fan when you were a kid.
Yeah.
And you made us all this time spent all this time as a comedy writer, and then you get this opportunity to work on this great little show that what turns out to be the best thing, it's satisfying thing.
It was. And it was magic and comedy and mystery. It's everything I love. But someone would make a sexist comment, and someone else would go, "Watch out, Nell's going to write an article about you." And I would go, "Yeah, 19 years from now, you're going to be so sorry."
Right. What was that? What provoked the piece about Dave?
Well, Dave gets on the air because he's in this blackmail sex scandal.
Sure.
And he cops to doing his quote, some creepy stuff.
Right.
And that is that he has had sex with women, plural, who worked on his show.
Yeah.
And that was then the National Organization of Women comes out with a statement talking about how there's a power imbalance, and any time a boss has sex with an employee, it's inappropriate. And then another one of the executive producers, Rob, speaks up and gives a statement about how he had worked on the show for over 20 years, and it was completely fair and merit-based.
Right.
And like I said, my soul did a spit take.
Yeah.
Because if you want to say, we fuck over women, and we've never had a black person in 33 years work on the show. Never, Late Show and Late Night never had a single person of color in the writer's room. Mm-hmm. And if you want to say, they just didn't fit in, or we didn't think they'd fit in, but if you say it's all merit-based, then I felt compelled to speak out. Yeah. And I really thought it might end my career.
Yeah. What was the piece called?
It was called Letterman and Me.
Yeah. And it didn't end your career, and it did, it did provoke a great, conversation culturally. And
I hope so. That was in 2009.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I just in the book, when people read it, you can see because you always wondered if David read it, and then you had an opportunity to see Dave.
That was wild.
And you still don't really know if he read it. I mean, I think you'd like to believe he didn't, but I don't know.
I don't think he did.
Really?
Because when he said, "Congratulations on your book."
Right.
And I said, and meaning Lean In, which had spent 16 weeks at #1 on the bestseller list.
Sheryl Sandberg and you wrote? Yeah.
And so Dave goes, "Congratulations on your book." And I go, "Dave, you don't know about my book." And he said, "Yeah, the one you wrote with that woman."
Yeah. Right.
So
he's trying to be
someone
diplomatic.
told him I had written a book that did well.
Yeah. So Murphy Brown, you had a great experience.
Murphy Brown was great. Yeah, that was.
And Sabrina, how did that work with Sabrina? Because did you create it? What did it mean to be the creator of that show?
Well, it was a comic from the Archie universe.
Right.
But I created the TV show.
Right.
And, but there were certain rules. I had to use certain characters, and, Sabrina and Harvey, Salem the cat, and the two ants.
Yeah.
And we got, I begged Caroline Ray to do the show.
I love her. We would go way back.
Oh my God. She's funny in her bones.
Yeah. She's great.
But
you only stayed there a year.
I did.
But after you leave, because you're the creator, you're always going to be a producer, right? Is that how it works? Or just not a producer, just a creator? You always get paid.
Yeah.
So that was a good gig.
That was a great gig. Yeah.
Yeah. That's what you hope for.
Although
right?
I found out that there was, a man was supposed to create the show and then fell out at the last second.
Yeah.
I learned that my deal was 25% of what his deal was. I'm like, 77%. That would have been awesome.
Yeah.
25%.
Ugh.
I know. We lived in a nice house in Santa Monica, but it was only one story. And I always used to tell people I'd have a second floor if I'd been a guy.
You would have. And then you worked on Monk a bit, NCIS.
Oh, I love Monk. Do you know Andy Breckman? He is one of the funniest people on the planet.
No, but was Sharpling there when you were there?
Yeah, he's great.
I love Tom Sharpling.
Yeah, that was such a fun room to be in.
He's sweet and funny, that guy. I'm going to give him a call, actually. I haven't talked to him in a while. And then you were able to write for Obama a bit and Hillary a bit. This is really taking you to a lot of different places, doing this job.
Well,
Lily
Obama.
Tomlin.
So he's so funny.
Yeah.
And he's, I was once talking about Obama's delivery with Albert Brooks, and Albert says he's like Carson.
Yeah.
He delivers jokes like Carson, and he'll repeat a word that he likes.
Uh-huh. Didn't Albert give you some other advice at some point?
Yeah, we became friends, in the past decade, but,
Sure.
Not forever. And but he, especially with the gender stuff, he teamed up with Monica Johnson, to write Lost in America.
Yeah.
And I think that's why Julie Haggerty's character is so funny and flawed.
Sure.
So but he's special. God, he's the funniest.
Yeah, and
man.
it was funny. It was one of those things where you appreciated yourself when you were younger, and then you got to meet him later in life because of just real life, not even because of
right.
But he said something about humanity and about
right. A fairer sampling of humanity will always produce funnier material.
Yeah,
and I believe that.
That's touching to me.
Yeah,
that's why I was saying that the book it's not like an industry help book, but there's a lot of lessons that you've learned throughout, not just about being a woman, but just about being in this dumb business that
right.
I think are helpful, in terms of framing how you approach things.
Right, and how not to get pushed around, which is, I think, what we're all fighting against.
Yeah, yeah. And I think that, it seems that the relationship with Sheryl Sandberg, that gave you a way of framing and more voice, just by watching her before you worked with her, to sort of look back over your life and then sort of create, this a retrospective feminist arc for yourself.
Well, what Sheryl does better than anyone is she can get that 30,000-foot view and then zoom into that data point.
Yeah.
That proves it. And, I tend to get stuck in my own life and, I'm looking at all the data points and not taking that big view. And so she really taught me how to take that step back and, see the patterns.
Right.
So,
in culturally and in your own life.
Right. And, some things I did instinctively. So I've had 2 kids, and I tried to hide my pregnancy for as long as I could. When people ask me if I have kids on the first day of work, I always say, yeah, but I'm blanking on their names right now.
Yeah.
Because there is, there's a motherhood penalty.
Yeah.
And women take a hit the second they become mothers, even if it's adoption. So it's not even like, well, you need to sleep more.
Right.
And men's, pay actually gets higher.
That's interesting because on some level, the idea is that you're not going to be committed to the job, or you're going to be, pulled away by your children. Yeah. But on the flip side of that, outside of the pay or everything else, they completely expect men to abandon their families, because that's the nature of work, of the way that the culture works, is that, they'll, let the kid and the wife stay at home. You do what we want you to do.
Right. Your baby was born yesterday. You can take that day off, but we expect you in. That is changing though, because in the rooms I've been in recently, there's a lot of men saying, I got to leave early and pick my kid up at school.
Yeah.
And, which is fantastic. The only thing that's slightly annoying is, oh, he's such a good dad.
Oh, right, yeah.
And I know if I tried to do that, I'd be pulled aside and told, do you want this job?
Yeah. Right. Right. Some of this stuff gets complicated, and I think you handle it very well in terms of, knowing men that were good and bad, and knowing bad men that had good qualities.
Right.
And knowing, good men that, could be dicks too, I mean, I think that the movement, that the stuff that sort of came from your relationship with Cheryl, and also like the way you framed your life in this, is that it's not condemning. It's sort of it opens up a dialogue. It doesn't close one.
Oh, I hope so.
Yeah, I like the book. Like I said, I enjoyed reading it, and it was great talking to you. You feel all right about everything?
I feel better.
Better
because it's ending.
Oh, really? Yeah.
No, I tell that story. I don't know if you remember about meeting Leno.
Yeah.
When I'm, I don't know.
Oh, the comedian?
26.
You got to be a comedian?
So we needed a host for the Wilton North Report, the show so bad that it doesn't exist. And Conan, Greg Daniels, and I were dispatched to, what would it have been on Melrose? What is that? The Comedy Store?
The Improv. Yeah.
Okay, so we're dispatched to the Improv. Now, bear in mind, Ellen DeGeneres has come in, auditioned, knocked it out of the park, and the executive producer was like, nah.
Yeah.
So we need a host, and we're watching people, and we're taking a break in the lobby, and Jay Leno walks in. And he's like the biggest star any of us have ever seen.
Yeah.
And he's really friendly. He comes over, and we're chatting it up with Jay Leno, and I make some, rude comment, and he looks at me and he goes, "You're funny. You should do stand-up."
Yeah.
And I was like, "What, me?" And he said, "Yeah." And he gestured toward the showroom and said, "Don't you look at those people and think I could do better than that?" And I said, "No, I look at those people and think every one of them is brave." And he goes, "Yeah, you shouldn't do stand-up."
That was it.
So whatever, super confidence, you need to propel you on that stage, I mean, it's amazing that you can do that.
But like I said, after, a decade or two, I mean, you get nervous for different reasons, but not about getting on stage.
Oh, that's right, because that one time I met you, you were about to go do a set.
Sure, yeah.
And you were just like, "Yeah, I got to do a set in 15 minutes.
Yeah.
And I was like, "What?"
No, I've been doing it a long time. I would hope.
I panicked for you.
Yeah, I would hope I wouldn't be at that, I didn't know how long it would take for it to go away, but it eventually did. But if I was 25 years in and still I'd do that with other things in my mind. But thanks for talking to me, and great job on the book.
Thank you, Mark.
All right, folks, that's it. That's it for this episode. Don't forget Sci-Fi's new series, Krypton, tells the untold story of Superman's grandfather, Seg-El, as he fights to defend his world and family's legacy, the House of El. Filled with some very recognizable characters.